2,000 years ago, 4 men wrote brief accounts of the events surrounding the most remarkable person in human history, Jesus of Nazareth. While 2, perhaps 3 of those men knew the Galilean personally and were witnesses to his preaching and numerous miracles, the combined written accounts represent only about 30 days in his life of more than 30 years. Yet those writings have had a mighty influence on humanity ever since, and today nearly 2 billion people worldwide are adherents to the great religion about Jesus. But despite all the lives that have been uplifted, souls that have been given hope, and good works of service that have been performed in his name over the centuries, countless people on our beleaguered planet remain in spiritual darkness and despair. Our modern technological world has become increasingly complex and stressful, and Christianity is challenged by the rise of godless secularism and hyper-materialism. Youth and young adults have been especially impacted. Numerous studies show that young people are increasingly abandoning conventional religion, even when raised in church-going families, and they are skeptical of the traditional presentation of Jesus and his teachings. Tens of millions of young people are suffering with anxiety and feelings of hopelessness, hungry to find some meaning and purpose for their lives and spiritual nourishment for their souls. They need Jesus, yet are unlikely to attend a church or Bible study to hear his life-saving message. The Center for Unity is keenly aware of the spiritual crisis affecting our youth and young adults. We seek to heal the God-sized hole in their hearts by presenting an expanded view of the human and divine Jesus, using the communication methods and technology they are comfortable with. We recognize that there were superhuman witnesses to the entire life of Jesus, including his childhood, adolescence, and early adult years. Those same formative phases of normal human life that everyone passes through, with some moments joyful and triumphant and other moments challenging, even tragic. These are the episodes so glaringly absent from the Gospels, but which reveal Jesus in a much more approachable and relatable way to the young people of today. Drawing from the narrative of the life and teachings of Jesus as presented in the Urantia book, the Center for Unity is creating a sensory immersive experience titled The Angelic Story of Jesus. Modeled after the hugely popular Van Gogh Immersive experience, The Angelic Story of Jesus will present both novel and familiar scenes from his entire life as narrated by the witnessing angels. This will include scenes of family life, boyhood and teenage friendships, school, work, travel, and his complicated relationship with his parents. The audience will see how Jesus dealt with the many problems and decisions of his young life, as well as his growing spiritual consciousness, and how he approached his relationship with God. The Center for Unity has established a wholly owned media company called 7 Circles Creative to develop the content and manage the business of the Angelic Story of Jesus Immersive Project. 7 Circles Creative intends to contract and work closely with a leading producer of blockbuster immersive exhibits, Lighthouse Immersive, who operates successful immersive productions across the globe. The Angelic Story of Jesus Immersive will transport the audience to the world of first-century Judaism and Roman rule with stunning lifelike detail of many of the most remarkable, inspiring, yet little-known aspects of the life and teachings of Jesus. The following trailer gives a taste of scenes from one such episode.
We've watched for 2,000 years, waiting for humanity to remember what we witnessed that January evening. In a world where women's voices were silenced, where tradition was law, where the divine was reserved for men alone. He did the unthinkable. 12 women, more than followers, ministers, teachers, healers. Susanna, Joanna, Mary of Magdala, each name beginning. Beyond words, beyond time, the silence speaks deep within. The angelic story of Jesus, where heaven's memory becomes your reality.
Special for any of those big Disney fans out
Van
there.
Gogh is coming to Oklahoma.
The Vatican brings you through 1,000 years.
Classic paintings kind of come to life in a modern way. The music was amazing, the visuals were awesome.
All right. So let me tell you some stories. And tell me if you see my screen, if you see the slides.
Yes, we see it.
Okay. So this video, we'll get back to it, and you'll understand why we showed you in the beginning. We are all Urantia book students here, I'm assuming, and the Revelation is 70 years old. It's been 70 years since the Urantia book was published. But I think, or I feel, or I hope that things that we decide in this room, in this presentation today, may shape the next 1,000 years. You all know what this book did for you. I don't need to explain it to you. It found you, or you found it. And in my case, my life split into before and after. And I think for many of us, this is the case. And this is probably why you are in this room. And this is what we all share. But tonight, we're not here to talk about what the book did for us. We're here to talk about what it hasn't done yet. And we feel that the Celestials are counting on us to do with it more things than what we've been doing. This revelation wasn't given to sit on shelves. It was given to reach every language, every culture, every generation. And this mandate is enormous. And we, the people alive today, in this window of history, we have been asked to carry this mandate forward. And we are. Let me talk about two big problems that we see. The first one is language. 27 languages. The world has thousands. The book itself has been translated into 27 languages. But the secondary works, the study aids, the commentaries, the videos, the introductions, hundreds of millions of words that help people actually understand the revelation, almost none of that has been ever translated. 95% of it is probably still in English. So if you were born speaking Swahili in Africa, Bengali in the Indian subcontinent, or Tagalog in the Philippines, this revelation barely exists for you as a speaker, native speaker of those languages. The second problem is people. Like the video showed, 70% of young people are leaving faith communities by the time they're 23. That's statistics. This is where we live today. 77% might declare that they're spiritual, but not religious. Now, they're not really rejecting God. They're rejecting the institutions that claim to represent God. And they all have questions, real questions, the kind that keep us all up at night. And they're not finding good answers. And we know Jesus answered every one of those questions. And the challenge is, how do we make those people, the youngsters, hear those answers? And you may expect me to say, and here's our plan, and this is how we're going to solve these problems. And we do have a plan, and we're going to show it to you. But first, let me show you a little bit of what we've been doing so far and why it isn't enough. In 4 years, you have given us over $1 million. That is a lot of money. 300 people donated over $1 million. And with that money, our team built discoverjesus.com, which has 500 original articles, 500 paintings, more than 175,000 users across 3 languages. We've built an AI tutor that helps people study the Revelation. We have an AI podcast with 337 episodes. We are producing a live video podcast hosted by Santiago, who could not be here today. 300 videos. We've built a trivia game platform, a study edition. We've designed and built the first versions of a translation engine that is going to be presented to you today. We have 10 digital properties. So everything we said we'd build, we actually did. And all of it depends on us asking you for money, you and others, every year. And we are asking for money tonight, but there's a big difference. And you will see that difference in a moment. With $1 million, you've shown extraordinary generosity. We could not do any of these things without all of these resources and the ideas. But $1 million is not enough for what is possible right now, for what this revelation calls for what we think and feel that the Celestials are asking us to do, us humans to do. And what we call passing the hat, asking for donations, it can sustain. It has sustained us. It has allowed us to do a lot, but it cannot transform. So the question becomes, how can we build a center for unity that doesn't just survive from year to year, but actually has the resources to fulfill its potential, its mission? How do we get to $5 million a year? Not 1 million in 4 years, but $5 million every year. And so this is the idea I want you to hold in your mind tonight. What if CFU, the Center for Unity, could actually build projects that are both deeply impactful for the revelation and generate revenue? Not charity, not donations, actual revenue from a market, from customers who actually need what we build and are willing to pay for it. This is what we're talking about tonight. Each one of those projects will serve the mission on its own. We're not just doing commercial enterprises for the sake of money. We're actually building things that we care about and we know are needed. But the revenue from each one of those projects will flow back to CFU to fund the next project and the one after that and the one after that. All of these is going to be inside a nonprofit, and the revenue flows back to the nonprofit. And this is basically an engine. So let me talk about 2 projects tonight. The first one talks about the language problem. What we have built, and this is already a pilot that is working, is a translation system that is designed specifically for sacred texts. We call it spiritual translations. And here's why this matters. If you take ChatGPT and you give it a paragraph of something that has spiritual content and has special terminology, like the Urantia book, if you give it 3 times, you will get 3 different translations. And the special terms like thought adjuster or the core of finality will probably not be translated in the right way. So every time you ask it, you'll get something else. If you're writing a novel and you're translating, that's probably okay. But for a sacred text, for something like a secondary work, where every word really means something and is important, that's not good enough. So the question you might have is, why would somebody pay for a spiritual translation service when ChatGPT is basically free? And here are 3 things that we have built that ChatGPT cannot do. First of all, you cannot translate 500,000 words with ChatGPT. It just doesn't work. It cannot enforce terminology over 500 pages. And when it gets something wrong, it just doesn't know it got it wrong. And you don't know it either, because you most likely don't speak the other language. We've built something that addresses all of these questions and more. So we've built something that doesn't exist today, or at least we haven't found anybody who's doing something like this. So first, what you do is you tell the system that it has special terminology. So for example, this word always means this in the context of this translation. And it remembers that choice over 500,000 words. So you get 97% terminology consistency, and without it, you basically are at 40%. It's a coin toss. Sometimes it will do something nice, and it will translate thought adjuster in the proper way, and sometimes it won't. But you will not be able to force it to do it. Now, like I said before, if you have a lot of text, you have to go piecemeal. You have to put paragraph by paragraph or page by page. We've built a system that takes hundreds of thousands of words at a time and can process them all at once. So we built something that is enterprise grade. It's a commercial process. And it can take websites and manuscripts and video subtitles, any type of text. It's not necessarily just paragraphs of a secondary work that is just a novel. And finally, it's smart enough to know when it's not doing well. And it flags its own performance, it grades it. And when the performance is not good enough, we will have a human review those pieces of the text. But we want to minimize as much as possible that part so that we can get to something that is really innovative. Let me give you some examples of what will become possible and why would the global marketplace be open if we build something like this. Imagine a Buddhist teacher, somebody in Southeast Asia, and this person has spent 30 years writing commentaries on the Pali Canon. That's their sacred text of the Buddha and the sutras. This is Buddhism. He wrote 20 volumes, and he has students in Bangkok that can read Pali. But his students in London, Sao Paulo, or Sydney can't. They don't speak that language. And he would never be able to translate the Pali to those languages because when he asked for a quote, they told him every one of those 12 volumes will cost you $15,000 or $17,000 per language. He doesn't have that money. What if we could actually do all 12 volumes to all 3 languages for $3,000? All of a sudden, the life's work of this person is unlocked for students around the world. Example number 2. A pastor in Brazil has built discipleship curriculum over 10 years of ministry. He has written 300 pages of curricula. He has 12 churches in his network. But half his congregants don't speak Portuguese. They speak Guarani or Quechua. So they told him he needs $14,000 per language to translate those 300 pages. And he doesn't have that money. So the curriculum sits. But with our service, Spiritual Translations, we can do in 1 week for $400 all of this in those 2 languages. And then 12 churches, thousands of people, and 10 years of this person's wisdom are unlocked. We're removing the language barrier for sacred texts. And the last version is something that I care deeply about. Imagine you're a young lady from Bengal, from a city called Dhaka. 230 million people speak Bengali, perhaps even more, but the statistics vary between 2 and 300 million. The revelation does not exist in their language. The book hasn't been translated, none of the study aids, not a single commentary. If these people don't speak good enough English, the revelation just doesn't exist for them. Now imagine we translate discoverjesus.com into Bengali. We pay a few $100s to do that. And then this lady manages to find the website online and starts reading discoverjesus.com. And something in her breaks open and she says, where is it coming from? Now, I know this story personally because it's my story. 15 years ago, I was handed the Urantia book and I started reading it in English, and I was fortunate enough to have English. But I remember saying, it doesn't exist in the language in my native tongue of Hebrew. And if my brothers and sisters are going to read it, I have to be the one to translate it. It takes a crazy person to do that. I am a crazy person, so I did that. But it just takes one person to open up a language for 230 million others. And I think if we actually translate materials to Bengali, the chances for this happening and somebody stepping up and saying, I want to translate the Urantia book to Bengali, and I'll spend 10 years of my life doing it, those chances are exponentially higher. And Bengali is just one language out of many, many, many others. So we said ChatGPT is not good enough. What we want to build, we are shooting for 90-90-90. We want to be able to say that we can produce a translation at 90% less money, in 90% less time, and with at least 90% of the quality compared to what the current state of the art today is, which is using some type of software and then a lot of human review. This is the state of the art. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. Just to give you an example, the going rate in just a regular commercial translation is probably between 10 cents of a dollar to 15 or 20 cents of a dollar per word. A book may have 50,000 words. So that's $5,000. Sorry, that's $5,000 to $10,000 per book to one language. These are the going rates for translation in the world today. If you reduce this by 90% of the cost, so that's $500 instead of $5,000, and you do it much quicker, I think what that does is it will create almost unlimited demand. That's my hypothesis. If we can capture a small market, a small fraction of that market, publishers with spiritual content, seminaries of different religions, translation organizations that are doing things differently, I think we can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe $500,000 to $1 million a year within 3 years. We have to open this market. It doesn't exist today. Right now, all these people don't know they have a solution. We will have to educate them, and we will have to prove to them that we can do this 90-90-90. I haven't proven it yet. We need your help to prove it. And in 2 to 3 years, we can do millions of dollars of revenue. And every dollar will flow back to CFU to fund the other projects. This is what we're envisioning. Okay, this is project number 1. This is about the language. And now we switch to the people. Remember the young generation, the disillusioned, the spiritual but not religious, the ones who are not finding good answers. So this may be an example of how they can find good answers. Imagine you're walking into a physical space. This is why it's called an immersive experience. You are immersed in it. You're going into a space. And when you're going there, you're carrying doubt and pain and loneliness and guilt, all those human emotions that we all feel, and especially the younger generations. And then we put you through a journey, 5 rooms, and each one of those rooms meets one of those questions. But we don't give you a sermon. There's no theology. We use light and sound and story and presence. Room number 1. You feel unseen and misunderstood, but then you discover that he gets you. Jesus gets everything. He lived every human life that we lived before we actually were born. And this room is for everyone who's ever wondered, does anyone really understand what I'm going through? Room 2. You feel invisible, and then you feel his gaze. But it's not judging, it's searching, it's looking for you. And this room is for everyone who's ever felt overlooked or forgotten. And there's many of us. If you believe you've gone too far and you're not worthy of the love of our Father, then you hear there's no conditions ever. And for everyone who's carrying shame, believing they're too broken to be loved, this room is for them. It's called unconditional love. If you ask why this is happening to me, whatever that is, whatever struggles we're going through, you may understand that whatever struggles are turning fire into gold. You're being forged into the person you need to be. And so this room would be for everyone who has suffered and worded, what's the purpose of this suffering that I'm going through? And finally, if you feel alone, then you will know, hopefully, through this room, that you will never were alone, not even once. And this room will be for everyone who fears that at the end of everything, they're just on their own. We feel that with these rooms, with this journey, people will walk out in a different state than what they walked in. So let me tell you 2 stories of 2 people that one day will come to this venue. First, this lady, she's 22. She grew up in a church, but she stopped going to church at 17. And she's not angry, she's just lonely. She misses something that she cannot name. She'll probably never go to a church again, but she may go into this room. And in this room, without a single word of theology, she feels, for the first time since she was a child, that someone actually sees her. And she walks out and she texts her best friend. She says, you have to go there. And this is how it becomes viral. Now let's look at another person. This person is 45 years old. He's a veteran. He served in the war. And 2 years ago, he lost his son. He goes to church and his pastor told him all the right words, but he never felt anything from those words. He goes to a therapist and the therapist gave him tools and he can function, but he doesn't really understand. And then he walks into room number 4, fire to gold, and he hears, your suffering is not punishment. It is forging you into something you could not become any other way. And so for the first time in 2 years, his internal weight shifts and he sits in his car for 20 minutes before he can actually drive home. This is the potential of what we're building. I want to be upfront. This is earlier stage than the Spiritual Translations Project, which is software that we've already built for the most part. The angelic story of Jesus is a concept. It is backed by the best team that we can find. And we have gates, several gates and milestones. So we're not asking you to help us build it. We're asking you to help us raise funds so we can answer the question, will this work? We have to do a lot of work to get to the point where we know this will work. So in order to do this work, we went looking for the one person in the world who had actually tried to build something like this. And we did find her. Julie was here today, and she will speak in a moment after I finish this presentation. She has more than 20 years of experience in production of shows, including 10 years with Cirque du Soleil. She helped produce and manage a show called the Nazarene Experience in Dallas, an immersive show about the life of Jesus. It's the closest thing that ever existed to what we want to build. She also produced for the Gogh Immersive experience in Sarasota, and she knows this technology and this industry from the inside out. Julie has been with us since November, and since March, the beginning of this month, she's been working full-time. She's already completed a first pass of all those 5 rooms in very much detail. We're writing the scripts for those rooms. What will actually the experience look like? But we have more people on our team. We have Wayne, who's actually built those experiences, many of them, experiences like Van Gogh and King Tut. And we have Vicente and the Lighthouse Immersive firm. They're behind many types of shows. And they're our production partner. They know how to make this real. They handle design and fabrication and technology, installation, ticketing, but we will maintain creative control and they will execute for us. Julie wasn't a Urantia book reader when we found her, but we sought her out. Actually, Rick hunted her down. We wrote her messages months before she saw them. And eventually when she did, when we started having meetings, she decided that she wants to join us and work with us. But nobody on earth has her set of skills and experience. And now she's deeply immersed in the Urantia book, and she understands that she can bring something that nobody else has. She knows what worked, what didn't. She knows what they tried and what should have worked, but wasn't never tried. She got a business model from her owners, and she did her best to make it work. But unfortunately, the Nazarene was not a commercial success. It was quite high quality, and we have evidence. You can see things on social media, people saying how much they liked it, hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok. So people were moved, but less than a year after it opened, it closed. And it failed because of the business model. It was the price of the ticket, it was their for-profit structure, it was the type of marketing they did. There were churches that were approached, but they didn't want to partner with them. And so Julie knows all of these things. This is her lived experience. And she lived through all of those things that worked and didn't work, and she knows what to fix. But there's one major difference. The people who started the Nazarene and invested money, millions of dollars in it, as far as we know, they didn't really care that much about the message. They were there for the money. This project is different. It is funded by people like us and like you who believe in this revelation, everybody in this room. So we're starting from a completely different starting point. We are going to structure it so that we can receive grants and donations and strike partnerships with churches. And then, of course, we're going to finance it with ticket revenue and merchandise. We're already trying to decide what is going to be the type of the venue, how to engage with churches so that they know that what we're doing. And there's more than those 5 rooms. We have ideas for many other things, a virtual reality component, curated art exhibits, and many other things. So this is the beginning of a much wider strategy. But I want to be honest, we've already worked 8 very long months on this concept. We created an initial creative. We studied comparable venues and cities. We talked to many industry experts. And we have a financial model that we've built that is very simple. And we think that we need to raise $5 million to build this. And the annual operating cost of this is going to be $1.7 million. And so our calculations show that we need about 34,000 visitors a year to break even. But these are not real numbers. They're just calculations we made with a financial model. And it's not validated. This is why it's quite risky, you know? And so the next phase for us is to work with Julie and Vicente and do a full creative development and business planning so we can answer this question. Will this work? Does it have a good potential to work? It's still going to be risky. This is entertainment. but we really want to invest the minimum amount of money so that we can find the right city, get real construction estimates, and have a very strong financial model that will tell us if the numbers hold up. And then if we answer yes, then we move to the next step. And if we cannot be as sure as we can that it's going to work, we're not going to raise those $5 million because we won't be able to convince people that it will work. We need to convince ourselves first. So there have been many other types of immersive experiences like this, and we've been following and reading about them and analyzing them. And so we think that at 75% capacity, which means from every 100 tickets that are available, we managed to sell 75. That means that's 75% capacity. We can generate more than $10 million a year of revenue. And over $10 million will go to CFU for other projects. This is a real engine. This build will pay for itself very, very quickly. If we reduce the capacity to 50%, it's still $4.5 million to CFU. Even if we go back to 33%, which is the average utilization the Nazarene has, which Julie says it wasn't very high, we still can make more than $2 million a year. So from the assumptions we have made, we really need to break them all very, very, very strongly to make this fail. There's a very good chance that this will work, but we have to find out. And this is what the next step is for. We need $250,000, not to build it, but to develop it to the next phase. And we defined 3 gates, 3 milestones. First is creative development, and this is until the end of April. Julie's already working on this full-time. I'm helping her. We're going to have a visual proof of concept. And then we're going to have a meeting, our first real meeting with Vicente from Lighthouse. And the next phase is to engage with him, and that is about $100,000. And from May to July, we can engage with him and take Julie's creative into buildable production specs, get real construction estimates, and then find a venue. We think Nashville might be a good city to start looking at, and we've already seen some churches and some other possibilities. And then the deliverable is a confirmed build estimate, a letter of intent from a venue, and then professional architectural renderings. So with that, we can create an investor package. So we need about $115,000 to do that. This is full production visuals. We're not building anything, but we're showing potential investors how it's going to look. So it's a visual demo, legal documents that we have to do so that we can receive investments. And that is basically where we end the third gate, and we start looking for the people who will want to invest in this. So these are the 3 gates, and we need $250,000 to go through those gates. So if I pull it all back together, we're raising $350,000, $100,000 for the spiritual translations, $250,000 for the angelic story of Jesus. The $100,000 for spiritual translations goes from the prototype that we have now to the first paying customers. We need to build more software, and we need to test 10 languages before we can actually launch this in the market. And I also need to create a business out of this. This is going to be a commercial enterprise owned by CFU through 7 Circles Creative. Now, I want to be clear. Each one of these projects is completely separate. The spiritual translation serves the revelation, even if the angelic story of Jesus is never built. And then the angelic story of Jesus has a life of its own, even if we never raise a single customer from the spiritual translations. This is not one or the other. They're both going in parallel, and each one of them has the potential to be an engine for the other and for the rest of the other projects. Now, what's different between this and what we've always asked you to fund is that these are designed to become self-sustaining. This is basically an engine. Now, what we're saying here is risky. These are not projections. These are not guarantees. We don't have any commercial customer for spiritual translations. The angelic story of Jesus is still in concept stage. This is the risk. But the $350,000 are what are needed, according to our best judgment, to go from the probability of 0 to 50, 60, 70%. I don't know what the number is. But right now, if we don't raise these funds, we won't be able to know, because we cannot move forward with the money that we have right now. We need those funds to initiate each one of those projects. Let's look about the success scenario. What happens if the CFU has millions of dollars in the bank? Why are we doing this? What is the potential for this engine to generate? So we've been thinking about this and praying about this. We feel that CFU can become a launchpad, something that creates a lot more impact. And it's a type of organization that frankly never existed for the Urantia Revelation in the first 70 years. I think we are the first of our kind, not the last, but the first. And we can execute at another level, a level that we think the celestials are demanding of us. So here's what we are visualizing right now. Imagine we have a grant-making organization, and we fund the best ideas from the entire community, not just our ideas, everybody's ideas. So if there's a teacher in Lagos, in Nigeria, who wants to build a study group network in Africa, we can fund this. If there's a filmmaker in Seoul who wants to tell stories professionally, or a scholar in Buenos Aires that has a beautiful commentary in Spanish that deserves translation, all these people can come to us, and we will evaluate their projects and grant them funds and support them. And we're going to support them with knowledge and process. We're going to build a capacity that frankly we have in-house. This is the way we are operating. We are like an incubator. Margie can tell you that 4 weeks ago, she decided she wants to do something. I will let her tell you about her project, but we've been incubating it in-house, and we will make it happen because this is what we can do. So imagine we can do this for everyone in our community, not just ourselves. So not just writing them a check, but actually help them succeed. Training, mentorship, resources, infrastructure. We are a small team that makes things happen, but now we can make it a much bigger and replicate the success of ours to the entire community. And the last portion is a talent marketplace. Many of you would like to do beautiful projects. You may not have an idea of your own, but you have 5 hours a week and you have some skills and talents, but nobody across the world knows who you are and what you want to do. And so if we put all those talents together and we connect thousands of Urantia Book students around the world with the people who are thinking about projects, we can create something that is very beautiful. We can connect all of this together. I know this has been tried many times before, but we will actually make it happen because we have the ability to execute, and we will learn from all those experiments that were tried in the last 70 years. And I have been talking to all those people and reading all those experiments. So what I want to say is, once we have funds in the bank, spiritual translations, the angelic story of Jesus, this is just the beginning. We are already having other projects in the pipeline that need these funds to go to the next level. And we believe that in our community, there will be others, people we don't even know, that once this engine is running and is able to produce impact on a massive scale, this is what the celestial needs to spread this revelation through our works and through their help and their works. So it's an engine that will fund many, many years. That's why I said what we decide here today, what you decide here, if this is calling you, can decide many, many generations in the future. And remember, we're igniting something. This is the potential with these two projects that we've shown you. These are things that can actually get an engine running. So what we're asking you today is reach in your heart and decide if you can give. And we trust you that you know this is a special opportunity. That's why we ask you to come and spend this time with us to tell you about this. Most people in our community don't know about the things we're doing at this level. But we wanted to share this with you first because you've already told us that you like what we're doing and you've given us collectively $1 million over the last 4 years, which is an amazing thing. It has never been done before in the Urantia community. There's organizations that raise a lot of money, but they haven't produced the stuff that we've been producing. They have done other things, and they do have a lot of money, but I don't think they can do the things that we can do, and that's why we are unique in this sense. They're doing other things that are important. If there's other people you want to share this with, we will give you materials. There's a PDF you can send them with the highlights of this presentation. There will be a YouTube video with this recording that you can send other people, and you can send them to us, to Rick or Margie, and we can have private presentations of this. If somebody wants to have a meeting with us, we'll gladly take the meeting. And we invite you to stay close. We invite you to keep being informed. Next week at this time, there will be our Ask Me Anything. Every month we talk about these things with our audience. So this is our presentation. This is the story that we are telling you. I think it's a unique story. And we can now, these are the details. I can leave it here if you want to take a screenshot, or Rick can put some information if you don't know these links. And with this, we open up the floor and take your questions, your comments, your insights. If you need that slide, I can put it back, but I just took it down so that we can see each other.
Why don't you introduce Julie to everybody?
Yes. So I spoke a lot about Julie, and now I'm going to let her speak about herself, and we can all take your questions. Thank you, Margie.
Well, hello, everyone. I am so thrilled and excited to be a part of this team and be helping move forward this project of this immersive show of the angelic story of Jesus. I think Gabriel really covered quite a bit, but just to reiterate a few things, I actually have about 30 years experience in the entertainment industry, 20 of those in production, and the last 5 or 6 years have really been focused on immersive shows. And immersive shows, if you've been to one, they're very spectacular. It makes you feel like you're inside the Van Gogh paintings as they're being created, or different things, just to give an example. And the immersive show industry is really evolving right now. So in order for the show to succeed, which I 100% believe it will,